Legacies in professional sports are often judged by the number of championships won. As a result, some players' legacies take a hit if they've never brought home a title, especially when they play a position as important as quarterback. Not including active players, here are the greatest QBs to never win a Super Bowl. Ken Anderson. Anderson spent his entire 16-year career with the Bengals, and he got off to a fast start in Cincinnati. In 8 of his first 11 seasons as a starter, including the strike-shortened 82 season, Anderson led his squad to a winning record. The season prior to that one was the most magical of his career. That was the year where he finally led the Bengals to the Super Bowl, as he was named league MVP along the way. Even though the Bengals consistently had winning records with Anderson, up until that point, they had only made the playoffs twice with him at the helm, losing in the divisional round both times. So it meant that much more that they were finally able to go on a postseason run, but they ended up losing to the 49ers. In the aforementioned strike-shortened season the following year, Anderson set an NFL record for season completion percentage at 70.6, and that record stood for nearly 30 years until Drew Brees broke it in 2009. After the Bengals lost in the wild card that year, the team never made it back to the playoffs before Anderson eventually retired after the 86 season. Even though Anderson finished with a career 91-81 record as a starter, his Bengals only made the playoffs 4 times. He consistently won, but was just a bit unfortunate with somehow not making the playoffs, going 10-6 on multiple occasions. Michael Vick. While you can wonder what could have been with a countless number of players and teams over the years, especially with great quarterbacks who never won a ring, that question may not be more relevant than when it is thinking about Vick's career. Here you had a guy who was on top of the NFL world, and it all suddenly came crashing down right in the middle of his prime. His athleticism had never truly been seen before at his position, as he gave a whole new meaning to dual-threat quarterback. It wasn't just that he could scramble. He was literally a cheat code whenever he wanted to be, and it looked like someone was playing a video game whenever he suited up for the Falcons. His rushing yards for the first part of his career were that of a star running back, not a guy who was throwing for over 2,000 yards a season. In his first 6 seasons in the league, Vick averaged 7.3 yards per carry as he ran for 3,859 yards and scored 21 rushing touchdowns. We chose the first 6 years for a reason, since he would miss the next 2 seasons as he spent 21 months in federal prison for his involvement in a dogfighting ring. Following serving his time, the Eagles gave him another shot in 2009. In his second act, Vick wasn't nearly as game-changing, but was still impressive. In 2010, Vick won NFL Comeback Player of the Year and was named to the Pro Bowl. He only made 1 conference championship game during his career, which ended in a loss, but he changed the way people thought about the position. Steve McNair. Nobody on this list can say that they got closer to winning a Super Bowl than Steve McNair. In Super Bowl 34 against the Rams, McNair and his Titans squad came within a yard of sending the game into overtime or having the chance to win it in regulation with a 2-point conversion. Kevin Dyson was tackled right at the goal line as time expired and the Titans fell 23-16. For McNair, that ended up being the first and last time he would play on the NFL's biggest stage. But that wasn't necessarily his fault, as his numbers were about as solid as they come. He finished with over 31,000 career passing yards, 174 passing touchdowns, 37 rushing touchdowns, and was named co-NFL MVP with Peyton Manning in 2003. His career was on the shorter side for a great QB, as he only played 13 seasons, spending his final 2 years with the Ravens after being exclusively with the Titans, formerly known as the Oilers, for the first 11. McNair's last real chance at a ring came in 2006, when he led Baltimore to a 13-3 regular season record before losing to the eventual Super Bowl champion Colts in the divisional round. He retired after the following season. Dan Fouts. While some people are now familiar with Fouts from his days as a broadcaster on CBS, the reason he had that job was because he was a great quarterback back in his day. Playing in the 70s and 80s, Fouts was putting up numbers that may seem average today, but were far from it back then. For 3 consecutive seasons from 79 to 81, he threw for over 4,000 yards, which nobody was consistently doing at the time. In fact, he became the first player in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards in 3 straight years, and his 4,802 passing yards during the 81 season set an NFL record at the time. Fouts also led the league in passing yards each of those seasons, and in 82 as well when he was named league MVP. Fouts wasn't just lighting up the stat sheet during those years, as he led his Chargers to the AFC title game in 80 and 81. Unfortunately for him, though, those would be the only 2 times he ever made the conference championship game, and both of those times his team came out with the loss. Randall Cunningham. Cunningham was another example of a QB ahead of his time, as his dual-threat ability really hadn't been seen at that high of a level before. Defenses struggled mightily with how to stop him because he was just as capable of beating teams on the ground as he was through the air. He was well on his way to superstardom and was in the conversation for best quarterback in the league, making 3 straight Pro Bowls with the Eagles. But everything changed in Week 1 of the '91 season when he tore his ACL. Some people say that injury derailed his career because even though he eventually came back from it, he just didn't seem to have the same electricity and explosiveness as before. He retired relatively early at just age 33 after the '96 season, but then came back for a stint with the Vikings after taking a year off. That year off did something to Cunningham, because in his second year in Minnesota, he led the Vikings to a 15-1 regular season record, while throwing for 3,704 yards and 34 touchdowns with just 10 interceptions. That was supposed to be his time to finally win it all and complete the ultimate comeback story, except the Vikes ended up blowing a late lead against the Falcons in the NFC title game before losing in OT. To this day, Eagles fans can regularly be seen wearing Cunningham Kelly Green number 12 jerseys to games, and there is no harder fan base to earn the admiration of than Philly fans. So the fact that they love him that much all these years later speaks volumes about him. Warren Moon. When taking Moon's career into account, it should be noted that he spent his first 6 years as a professional playing in the Canadian Football League. Not only does this take away from some of his NFL stats, but it also means he had a shorter window to try and win a Super Bowl. Even with less time spent in the league, Moon still managed to pass for nearly 50,000 yards and just under 300 touchdowns over his NFL career. Thanks to his dominant play, Moon made 8 consecutive Pro Bowls before missing half of the 1996 season due to a broken collarbone. He would bounce back and go on to make it to the Pro Bowl the following season. However, all of this individual success wasn't enough to get Moon and his Oilers to the Super Bowl, or even close to it for that matter, as they never made an AFC title game during his tenure. He did lead his team to 7 straight postseason appearances in the late 80s and early 90s though. While he never won or played in the big one in the NFL, Moon should not be viewed as a QB who couldn't lead his team to a victory when it counted the most, as he won 5 straight Grey Cups in the CFL. I'm not sure what the conversion rate on Grey Cups to Super Bowls is, but there's no knocking that accomplishment. Philip Rivers. A generation of football fans grew up watching Rivers battle so hard with the Chargers and often get so close to winning, only to have it end up with him taking his helmet off in disgust after suffering a late-game defeat. Rivers was the Chargers starter from 2006 to 2019, and the team was always competitive with him at the helm. From 2006 to 2014, the Chargers only had 1 losing season in that stretch, and it was barely one, as they finished with a 7-9 record in 2012. Even though they did plenty of winning in the regular season thanks to Rivers' play, they could never seemed to get over the hump in the postseason. Part of this can be attributed to playing in the same conference as 2 of the greatest QBs of all time in their prime with Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. The closest Rivers ever got to the big game was in his second season as a starter, when he led his squad to the AFC title game before running into the buzzsaw that was the undefeated Patriots. He played in this game after tearing his ACL the week before, a true warrior. That lack of postseason success shouldn't take away too much from Rivers' impressive career though. He finished as a 9-time Pro Bowler and was 5th all-time in both passing yards and touchdowns upon his retirement, the most of quarterbacks without a Super Bowl appearance. Rivers is also 2nd all-time in consecutive regular season starts by a quarterback with 240, a testament to his skill and toughness. Fran Tarkenton. Unlike Rivers, Tarkenton had plenty of chances in the big game, as he led his Vikings to 3 Super Bowls over a 4-year period, going 0-3 in those games. Over his 18-year career, Tarkenton made the Pro Bowl 9 times and won league MVP in 1975. He was a scrambling quarterback before they were really a thing, but was also able to shred defenses through the air. He ran for 3,674 yards, which even today is 7th all-time for quarterbacks. When he finally decided to hang up his cleats, he finished with 47,003 passing yards and 342 passing touchdowns, which were both NFL records at the time. His scrambling style of play was ahead of its time, but looking back, there's no questioning his effectiveness to play the position. Jim Kelly. While many quarterbacks on this list struggled to even get close to winning a Super Bowl, Jim Kelly was the complete opposite. It was almost as though the football gods were teasing Kelly and members of the Bills Mafia, treating them like Charlie Brown trying to kick a football. Kelly led Buffalo to 4 consecutive Super Bowls, and as you know, since he's on this list, the Bills went 0-4 in those games. Forgetting the fact that he could never get over the hump, making it to 4 straight Super Bowls is an impressive achievement within itself, and Kelly played an integral role in making that happen. Over a 6-year stretch, Kelly made 5 5 Pro Bowls, as he led the league in passing touchdowns one year and completion percentage in another. As the maestro behind the famous K-gun no-huddle offense, he and the Bills revolutionized the strategy of going up-tempo and not letting opponents sub on defense between plays. For Kelly and the Bills, that 4-year stretch in the early 90s will always haunt them. But that run is also why he will always be a Buffalo icon. Dan Marino. Marino spent his entire 17-year career in the 305 with the Dolphins, and despite holding numerous NFL records, he only played in 1 Super Bowl. His illustrious career got off to a fast start, too, as he won the NFL's MVP award in just his 2nd season in the league. It was the same year where he would make his lone appearance in the big game after leading his team to a 14-2 regular season record. Following Miami's 38-16 defeat to the 49ers in the Super Bowl, everyone assumed Marino would be back in no time. Coming off an MVP season where he shattered 6 league records, why would anybody think otherwise? Well, those people were wrong, as Marino would actually go on to only make 1 other AFC title game the rest of his career. The lack of team success was not Marino's fault, though, as he enjoyed plenty of individual success. At the time of his retirement, Marino held more than 40 NFL single-season and career passing records, and he was the first player in league history to reach 50,000 and 60,000 career passing yards respectively, and 400 career touchdown passes.